Here we are, the Baco Motorsports Power Hour, Kern County Raceway segment, and we're talking finances because they just had the Winter Showdown there at KCRP, and Bubba Pollard went home with a whole lot of cash.
He certainly did, and you know what? I don't care how they got to that number. I don't care how it all adds up. My major concern was that was some great racing. A lot of cautions, but still some great racing.
And we go here. We got Jason Galvin in here. He knows a lot about a lot of stuff. And Steve Hughes from Kern County Raceway Park. And you've got me, who I don't know anything about anything.
Oh, come on.
And over there being quiet is
the voiceless.
Big Gorilla. Oh, no, that's Louis Amistoy. We kind of
Ribbit.
liked when Big Gorilla was over
Ribbit.
there last
I
year.
can barely talk. Ribbit.
Yeah, he talks just
Ribbit.
like a gorilla. Yeah, so there we go.
That's for Tom Mock.
And we're talking about a big race at Kern County Raceway Park, the SRL Winter Showdown. Spectacular weather and some great drivers.
Yeah, Spears Manufacturing Winter Showdown 250. That entire weekend was great. We kicked things off, with a dirt race on Friday night that was very well attended. We invited all the race teams that had shown up on Monday and Tuesday to test at the big half mile. Gave all those guys some tickets, and then the Lucas Oil Modified guys that were there on Friday, they all showed up, and some great racing on Friday night, crowned the champions of our winter series at the dirt track, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the weekend. Saturday was fantastic. 5150 energy drink opening night with the Lucas Oil Modified 80 lapper split into two 40 lap segments, and then we had, of course, the qualifying races for the Race for Autism.
Yeah,
It was
modified
great.
drivers didn't crash as much.
No, they certainly did not.
The modified drivers know better than the crash.
And maybe we can roll that B-roll, I think, of the race if Chris can do that.
If he's
or have
there.
some footage if
Just
it's there,
push
of
the
the
button.
race, just that, and we can talk about that. And what you're going to see while this is running in this little highlight package is a lot of restarts.
Yeah, well,
But
30.
this was a pretty good race. I mean, Derek Thorne was fast, and he was fast off the get-go, and unfortunately he had a bad seal on a brand new rear end, I think a pinion gear seal.
Yeah.
Started leaking, and
Heartbreaking.
they had to look at him for a while, and they brought him into the pits and sent him back out, and they brought him back in, and there went his race. And two fast guys up there. You had
So did we ever figure out what happened to David Mayhew, by the way? I talked to
Hey,
Derek,
rear
and
end
he
gear.
told me about the rear end.
rear end gear,
heard
both
of
of
it.
them.
And
I
I think
thought
Johnny
so.
White lost his transmission too, didn't he?
Same problem with both cars. But the biggest mover up to that point was
Johnny
David
White.
Mayhew, who
David
started
Mayhew.
14th, and before lap 45, he was running second to Derek Thorne. So
and that's it. Derek Thorne was leading. Mayhew was up there, and Johnny White started right behind.
Just kind of
Mayhew,
followed
his
David
teammate,
through.
and he was running fourth at one
yeah,
point.
they were both
so-
on the move. Those MMI cars were
And
definitely on the move.
We got here. This is when they're looking there, trying desperately to find it. It was just such a small leak, but obviously the cars behind them were reporting this, and this is what happened.
Yeah, obviously the third place car said, hey, one of those two cars in front of me is dropping oil or dropping some kind of fluid. But it took the SRL officials 3 or 4 trips into the pits to finally figure out what was going on, but just a heartbreaking deal for Derek Thorne.
And Mayhew was fast, as we can see here, the 17 car leading after Thorne went out. And it sure looked for a while that the sun was going to shine on some Bakersfield drivers, but it just didn't fall that way. Mayhew breaks. Later in the race, Bubba Pollard, who struggled all weekend and kind of wasn't quite right in the first 125 laps, was bad fast in the second 125.
Well, and they struggled from the time they unloaded the car off the truck in practice, qualifying. I think they qualified 9th, which is, not where Bubba is normally on the grid. And they found they had a broken locker on the rear end.
And they found that in the practice
Saturday.
Yeah,
and they had to get that fixed. They had to do it Saturday evening, got it fixed for Sunday's race, and just took his time. I mean, he's a veteran of these long races. He's got over 90 wins in races over 100 laps. So he definitely knows how to race these
This is where
these
David
long
Mayhew
events.
breaks on the
Yeah.
restart. The thing was going down the backstretch. It was motoring. He was pulling away from Grayson Raz, and then it went away. And I think it was maybe 1-2 restarts later. Johnny White, his teammate, did the same thing. Hit the gas going into turn 1. Thing just died on him. So
One thing we didn't talk about, you can see the tire marks going up to the turn 2 wall there. The first caution of the day was one of the favorites to win this race, driver of the 51 car, Todd Gilliland, cut a right front tire and went straight to the wall, ended his day early. I believe under lap 10. Yeah,
it was
lap
the 4th
4.
lap of the race. Yeah.
So pretty devastating for some of the front runners. Donnie Wilson from Oklahoma City had his struggles as well.
Yeah,
so
he was never He was totally out of the picture all weekend.
Yeah, all these top guys. And then we had teammates, Grayson Raz.
Right here.
And
This is the tail end of it. I was walking and changing positions.
Yeah.
And then it happened, but yeah.
And there's Grayson's car, who was challenging for the lead, and there's Noah Gregson's number 7 machine. Grayson Raz in the 27, teammates with Jefferson Pitts Racing. They made contact in the apex of 3 and 4. Raz overcorrected, and it was a tough day for him.
Tough day. And then I was.
I tell you what, I thought Parker Stevens.
Hey.
If Parker, so that last wreck that we're talking about,
This
if you
is Parker chasing down Pollard right here.
Yeah, this is the end of the race. If you didn't see the wreck, if you weren't there, Parker got kind of caught up in the middle of that wreck. He was in the middle of those cars. It essentially took out Gregson. It took out Grayson Raz. It took out Lenny White, who, speaking of movers, I think started 33rd or 34th
and was
up
into the
to
top
6th or 7th
Yep,
and was
getting
running
ready.
hard.
Yeah.
It took out Preston Peltier, who struggled all day, was on pit road
He
for like
was
an hour and a
running
half,
well.
and had still got up to the top 5. Took out all these contenders, and Parker Stevens ended up way back at like 5th or 6th on the restart because he had to basically park his car on the front stretch to miss that wreck.
To avoid everything.
Yeah, so he started behind a couple of cars. By the time he got clear, and that was the last yellow, we didn't get another restart.
Nope.
By the time that he got clear of everybody to run down Bubba was like checked out. And I tell you what, he ran Bubba down.
He did.
Had we gotten a restart with 10 or 5 to go, whew.
Well, I think Parker said he thought his car was better on longer runs. So restart, he thought favored Bubba, but the longer runs, he said, I just needed a few more
Maybe needed
laps
10 more
because his
laps,
car
yeah.
got going better. But
We averaged a caution about every 15 laps, so nobody really got the ability to get that 30, 40, 50 lap run
and I think
in.
the final count was 18 cautions.
18 cautions.
And 11 cars on the track out of 38.
See, it's interesting because last year, the first Winter Showdown, we had a similar rate of attrition, but most of that came from, if you remember, we had that big wreck off of turn 2. It took out like 11 or 12 cars. Yeah, like lap 30 or 40.
Yeah.
One of the biggest wrecks I've seen at your track.
But it was mid-pack and back that took out a lot of those cars. So we got to see some great racing both years.
Yeah,
I
this
really
race was
thought-
incredible. I mean, you had to
Yeah.
deal with the yellows, and that's part of it. You're going to run big races and have 38 race cars, and they're coming from all over. The one thing that a lot of people don't factor in, a lot of these cars aren't built specific for Kern. The drivers aren't, the teams aren't. So things break, things that aren't used to running
Yeah, it
100
was
laps,
a lot
200 laps.
of breakage. It wasn't major wrecks,
No.
that last wreck. But
Right.
until then, it was, single car stuff or this guy cutting a tire, or this guy doing that. It was just a series of small incidents. There wasn't anything major leading to the cautions. It's just the little things.
Oh, and when you talk about the different tracks that most of these drivers go to for these bigger races, real abrasive on tires, the tracks are. They struggle hooking up for these longer races. We're at Kern. We have this track-specific tire that we use that hooks up. Our surface isn't abrasive. It's only 5 years old. There's a lot of grip there, and so a lot of these parts on these race cars, especially transmissions and rear ends, really are getting put to the test. Probably the most stress they've been under, and that's where we saw some of the parts failures.
And also, I mean, Kern is just such it's a half mile, but you and I have both been to a lot of racetracks around America, and it's
super
a
speedway.
half mile Daytona.
Yeah, it's a
essentially.
super speedway,
I mean, like
yeah.
the Snowball Derby, like 5 flags is like a 4/10,
Right.
but it is not. I mean, it might as well be your guys' Legends track compared to Kern County Raceway Park. And honestly, it's flat.
Yeah, you walk in,
it's
Kern County
wide.
Raceway is a big half mile.
Oh yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
It is, and a fast. So, but man, that racing.
That's what Stevie Hughes always says. The big half mile.
That's
the big
right.
half mile.
That's right.
Yeah, let's
That
say-
racing was as I don't care how many cars were on the track. I loved I'm a racing junkie, but that was 3 hours of edge of my seat racing.
Yeah, it was
the whole
pretty
time.
amazing stuff. Just the bad luck that we kept seeing continuously with the lead cars. That was the thing. That was kind of the story. And Bubba really finding that broken rear end the night before the race, and him coming back to win it, to make it back to back, feeling the pressure those last few laps. From our Veterans Day Classic Ironman 125 winner. It just had all the makings of a great finish, and that's what we got out of it. So
And I tell you what I was really excited about at the end of that race too, Steve, is we look forward into your season, and specifically with the K&N cars coming to town in a couple of weeks.
Whoa, wait a minute here. Go back to that picture.
Uh-oh.
I didn't see that before.
The Bubba Pollard picture?
That is a badass looking trophy.
That's
You
a
like
great
that?
trophy.
that's Buck the Yeti
That
holding the
is-
Bakersfield
Holding the
sign.
Baco sign.
That's
Yep.
what is it? What is it on the show? The what do they call him? The Bumble? The Bumble?
Oh,
Is that
on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, the Bumble, yeah.
The Bumble's bounce.
He does.
Remember what Lewis is over there talking about.
Exactly
Talking about
right.
the old Burl
That's-
Ives
yeah,
1964 animated.
That's almost as good as. that's the
You know,
old
Lewis,
guy.
interesting fact here.
The
I don't
Island
think
of
I've seen
Misfits.
that.
The Island
have
of
not seen
Misfits.
that?
Oh, you got to watch it.
I don't think I've seen
Doesn't
that.
your TV station play it every year at Christmas time?
We might, but I don't know that I've actually watched
And
it.
thanks to Raymond's Trophy and Awards for putting
That's
together
a great looking
beautiful,
trophy. Yeah, it's
a
unique
very cool
trophy.
trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom walked out there. He sent
Oh
us
my gosh,
a few photos, like
that's incredible.
a few dozen.
I'm not sure where the
Yeah.
little thing's sticking out his. Well,
I-
anyway,
Well, that's just how he's mounted.
sorry.
So I was.
And
I'm
an
out of control
interesting
now.
thing, you know, it's funny back there on the 7 car, Johnny White flying the Trump
Oh, the
colors.
Trump colors, yeah. That got a lot of reaction out of Steve Hughes' Facebook share.
It did. You know, I put it on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I want to say it was about 17,500 reached.
Really?
Yeah, within 24 hours. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So thanks, Chainsaw.
And then Brian France just went and was like, hey, let me reaffirm Johnny
I
White's
mean,
opinion.
Everybody seems to be following Kern County Raceway's
Is that what it
lead.
is?
You know, we switched to the Ford Mustang, Jim Burke Ford with the official pace car this year, and wouldn't you know it, Stuart Haas Racing going with Ford in 2017.
Well, that had to be it.
You know,
Steve Hughes
John.
just making, did you call Joe Custer and set that up? Is that how that
Actually,
worked?
what happened, Joe called me,
Oh, okay.
and we had a conference call with Tony, and they said, hey, man, pump the brakes on your press release. We've got a big announcement coming on on Monday.
How jaw-dropping was that for you when you saw that announcement?
It was pretty amazing. Kind of floored me. Thanks to Brian Olson for telling me, hey, man, by the way, great timing on your press release. I'm like, what are you
Right.
talking about? He says, Stuart Haas just released that they're going forward in 2017.
I
And I'm
hear
like,
through
oh.
the rumor mill that
Yeah.
there is another Chevy team that is going to be making a Ford announcement at some point.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, that may or may not have some California interest in it. So
Wow. That's
somebody do the
major.
math on that. That's just what the rumor mill tells me. Hey, I was telling you about your racetrack because I think it's important. The K&N race is coming up.
Yep.
And the K&N cars are not super late models. They're top heavy. They're clunky. They have a kind of a crappy tire, especially compared to yours. The nice thing about them is when those tires wear, they get real racy
Right.
because things get kind of crazy. But what I was really impressed with, and I raced at your track last year, and it was like May, it was hot, and there was not 2 grooves. And when the K&N cars ran last year, there was like 1.5. And when David moved up a half, the race was over. I mean, you could have put, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You could have put
This-
Stevie Wonder out front.
He did get
and
bumped there going into turn number 3 when Dalton Sargent made that move.
Right. So, but what I was impressed with this weekend, there's legitimately 2
agree.
grooves now, and the compounds might be different, so maybe that affects the K&N cars a little. But man, when we get to your regular season and your Wheeling All American Series stuff. Holy cow! There's 2 legitimate grooves, which
Yeah.
I think you guys have been waiting for to come in out there. And when you got 2 legitimate grooves and you can race door to door, and it's not a lane and a half, and you can pinch somebody off, and that's it.
Right.
Man, the racing is going to be out of control.
It's finally getting
when is the
seasoned.
K&N race?
It is our opening night. It's our big opener on April 2nd, 1 month away from today. So we've got 30 days before that one. And we're going to see a lot of the youngsters that raced in the Winter Showdown, Grayson Raz, Noah Gregson. I'm hoping that Dalton Sargent makes the trip back. So
You're
we're going
gonna
to
have
see a lot of
Blaine
drivers.
Perkins, who was
Yep.
in the Lucas Oil modified race, and there's going to be another local
Buddy
driver.
Shepherd running that
Buddy
race too?
Shepard will.
I think
Oh,
maybe
did they
I
make
don't know.
that? Did they make
I'm
that
hearing-
announcement
I don't know.
yet?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if there's been an announcement, but I wouldn't
I know
be-
Ryan
let me
Partridge
say,
will be
Ryan
in
Partridge
that
would
race.
not be surprised if Buddy Shepard is in a West car for that race.
Well, we'll
I
have to
would
wait
not
and
be,
see. I'm
so.
sure now that if Dick Shepard's watching, my phone should
And
be
then
blowing
we're
up here
gonna have
shortly.
David Mayhew and the chainsaw, probably, right?
Yep, man, I sure hope so.
So
I
I
sure
think
hope so.
I think they're planning to run that. So a lot of local drivers that were in
Baker's
this
still
race
heavy.
going to be.
I'll
in
tell
that
you
race.
what, David Mayhew, Buddy Shepard, and Johnny White sure do help sell some tickets for us. So I'd really like those guys to be in a West car for that race. Yeah.
Pre-race intros, man.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
Buddy Shepard. When they announced Buddy Shepard,
Yeah.
I thought that Kevin
Yeah.
Harvick showed up. I mean, the place was no.
And I think the girls like him too. I've seen that at the victory
Yeah.
at the autograph
No
sessions.
doubt. No doubt.
Okay, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for coming in, Steve.
my pleasure.
And
Thanks for
30
having me.
days, Kern County Raceway Park opens. We'll be back in a few minutes with the Auto Club Famosa Raceway segment.
You know, I was the